Hey, what's up, guys? Over here. So it's here with me once again talking about Ramzi Khalid Ismail, better known as Johnny Somali, the world's most pathetic nuisance streamer, which is a long-winded way of saying pathetic squared. Now, why are we talking about him once again today? Well, it's been about a month and a half since the last video we made on this individual, and a lot has happened, especially given the fact that his next proceeding is happening in only 3 days on May 16th. During the time between our last conversation about him and now, a lot has happened, including new charges, potentially decades in prison, and a lot of angry people in South Korea preying on his downfall. Now, here is the very rough timeline of events to get us back up to speed here. So basically, this nuisance streamer, Johnny Somali, goes to South Korea, disrespects Korean culture, violates a bunch of their laws. Eventually, he goes to a proceeding for 3 charges he's facing. He pleads guilty to all 3 of them, but unbeknownst to him, a 4th charge had been added shortly before that proceeding, which him and his public defender were not aware of, and they asked for additional time to deal with that charge, and they were granted that. And during that extra time, a 5th charge was added involving deepfakes, which carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. And that's where we left off last time about a month and a half ago. And since then, a lot has happened. So beginning with this, the Korean media is very interested in this. And why wouldn't they be, right? There's this foreigner who comes in, disrespects their culture and their laws, and has had a very flippant and disrespectful attitude and has doubled down on everything that he's doing. You can see major news outlets making articles and showing up at some of the proceedings, like the Korea Times, for example, who talks about his self-inflicted backlash he's facing. And you also see them sharing this right here. This is a post sharing a PayPal from Hank, who is a Korean that Johnny Somali is very close to. Hank is pretty much his babysitter slash sugar daddy, who not only houses Johnny Somali, feeds him, he also spends every waking moment of his life attached to the hip with Johnny Somali, and he's also bankrolling him, including hiring a private attorney on top of the public defender that Johnny Somali was issued originally. And now Hank is broke. The money has dried up, and he's asking people to give him more money so he can keep Johnny Somali fed and keep him from starving. That's how pathetic things have gotten. Now, another update, this time involving a different fundraiser, one that a lot of people supported. Do you remember Dalgun? He is the Korean Navy SEAL who found Johnny Somali in public and, of course, knocked the daylights out of him. He put him to sleep. He hit him in the face with one punch. He bloodied him. And unfortunately, he was arrested as a result of hitting Johnny Somali and was fined an equivalent of $7,000 US. Now, there was a PayPal that was floating around to cover that. That was something that Legal Mindset was sharing. And eventually, you can see down here, content creator and veteran Donut Operator saying he would pay that fine, responding to the post we just saw from Dexerto. And after talking with Legal Mindset and figuring out the remaining balance on his fine, he came through and provided $4,000 to that fund to make sure that the fine was paid. This is a great situation, great results, and a lot of people are very happy about what happened here. Now, the next thing to happen was a very disturbing one, but not too unsurprising given the history of Johnny Somali. So I'm not going to play this clip. I'm just going to have this paused image here because it's relevant. But Johnny Somali and Hank went on I don't know if it was Omegle or it was just another cam-to-cam website where you talk with strangers. And Johnny Somali came into contact with multiple minors and said very disturbing things, including sexual comments he directed towards them. And during this whole time, he was consistently going to Google and looking up the age of consent in various countries. Very disgusting stuff, obviously, but given the lore of Johnny Somali, you shouldn't be too surprised. He's done stuff like this before, and it's just very creepy behavior that has really become an expectation for this man, unfortunately. Now, the other thing to happen, like I said last time, we talked about the 5th charge involving deepfakes. Well, they hit him with another round of that same charge about 2 weeks ago, which is very significant because these carry up to 10 years in prison individually. So on these 2 charges alone, if he's given the maximum sentence, these 2 alone could lead to 20 years in a Korean prison. They take this stuff very seriously. They take deepfakes very seriously in South Korea, which honestly, as they should, and it's not too surprising they're on the forefront of this, because think about the Korean entertainment industry, especially something that's very digestible like the K-pop industry, right? There is a lot of money there. There's a lot of people interested in it around the world. There's also a lot of psychopaths who are interested in it, and they have bad intentions, and they've been using deepfakes as a tool, whether for their own perverse reasons or to try to defame some of the talents by making deepfakes of things that they've either not said or never done in order to hurt their reputation. So they have very stiff penalties for this stuff. And when it comes to Johnny Somali, there is a plethora of potential deepfakes that could have gotten him either of these charges. He's posted deepfakes of content creators, his critics, and many others. So we've been kind of in the dark regards to which specific one was being addressed with this right here, and also with the 6th charge on the same violation of the special act right there. But during this time, an individual named Kim and their lawyer registered with the court, likely with the intention of providing testimony for the prosecution on these charges. And because of the name Kim, I mean, obviously there's a lot of Kims in South Korea, but that's the same name as the streamer who goes by the alias of Bong Bong. Now, she did a stream with Johnny Somali that was innocuous, right? They didn't do anything romantic or sexual or anything even close to that. However, Johnny Somali, in his infinite wisdom, decided to post a deepfake after their stream using the footage from the stream to produce it. And it is a very bad look for him, given how seriously they take these related things.
Look at this. Let me show you my girlfriend. You want to see my girlfriend? Look at this. I have a Korean girlfriend. I don't know why you guys want to attack me. Even I have a Korean girlfriend. She's a streamer. Bong Bong IRL. This is my girlfriend. I have a girlfriend. This is my girlfriend. Bong Bong IRL. I have a Korean girlfriend. Why are you attacking me? This is my girlfriend. Bong Bong IRL, that's my girlfriend. Look how she drives me around in the car. She's the one who helped me. She told me, come to Korea. Let's make a content. Look, and a romantic date together drinking wine. Look at this. I have Korean girlfriend. Look, me and my Korean girlfriend. Look, look, look.
This is once again another example of Johnny Somali cooking himself. He is the person who broadcasts every waking moment of his life, including every stupid thing he does, including illegal things. And they caught him in 4K here. How do you explain this away? They got him caught in the most obvious example of him violating this special act. He is cooked. He's going to have a very hard time explaining this in a court. But of course, there's a lot more to be said here. And with these charges, you have to look at the totality of everything going on, because we're focusing a lot on 5 and 6, but what about 1 through 4, including the ones he's already pled guilty to before? Well, this stuff is starting to really snowball into something very serious, and let's turn to legal mindset to get a better understanding of the totality of all of these charges and what Johnny Somali is currently facing.
So, just to be clear, we have 6 charges that are against him right now. Now, mind you, in this last trial in March, he only was really aware of 1, 2, and 3. Now, 4 was technically filed just before his March court date, but he had no idea about it. In fact, the only reason he heard about it was from my live stream. My live stream was the only way he knew about it, because he wasn't following his court case closely, and frankly, neither was his lawyer. So they were kind of blindsided by that, and they did not plead guilty or not guilty. They said, we need time to review it. And then he got hit with the deepfake before his April trial, right at the end of March, and this actually caused the public defender in that district to file for an extension to push this thing down to May. And now we have the new charge coming through here in May, the next deepfake, the second deepfake. And for this, actually, the other lawyer that he had in the Eastern District registered in the West and his public defender was dismissed by the judge. We now have confirmation 100% that the public defender was removed by the judge, because if you have a paid attorney, if you have a private attorney, you are no longer qualified for a public defender.
So again, look at the totality of everything going on here. He's definitely in some very big trouble. And looking at these individually, if Johnny Somali was charged with just one of these, right? He only was facing one of these charges. He might have gotten hit with just a simple fine or something like that. But given his defiance of the court system and really just Korean culture as a whole, and also the fact that there's a multitude of charges here, the likelihood of the judge taking some leniency on him is virtually none. You'd have to assume there's virtually no leniency that's going to be applied here. And you also heard about his lawyer. Now, again, I mentioned earlier, he had a public defender given to him by the court because, well, he couldn't afford it. But Hank, in his infinite wisdom, hired a private attorney. Well, you can't just combine these attorneys, a public defender and a private one. You can't just start stacking on top of the court-appointed attorneys. So the court has released the public defender from this case, and now this private attorney is taking over, and God bless his soul, he has a lot to deal with here. Not only a mess of charges, but also he has to deal with Johnny Somali every single day, and some, again, charges that are going to be very hard to defend in court. And also, I should note, Johnny Somali has stated that if he ever got charges on deepfakes, he was going to fight it, meaning he was going to take this to trial. That was what he has stated before, and if he does that, well, it's going to drag out this entire process for a lot longer, potentially more months, even maybe another year. It could be that long, and really, it's a loss for multiple parties. It's going to be a loss for Johnny Somali because it's only going to make things worse for him. On top of that, it's going to make the court suffer because they have to deal with him and waste resources on him, and that's going to be obviously another loss to the Koreans generally, because their taxpayer dollars are being wasted on this idiot who couldn't behave while being in South Korea. But the only people really winning are people who are covering this situation, because they're getting months more of content, and that surely will piss off Johnny Somali, who's clearly going to cause more issues. Now, you're probably wondering, what are the totality of the potential sentences here? How deep does this all go? Well, we're facing up to 31 years here. If he's given the maximum of everything, he could be facing over 3 decades in prison. That is how serious this is.
Now, if this was just one charge, I would say it's highly likely he just gets a fine. However, it's 6. And he's already pled guilty to 1, 2, and 3, which makes him a convicted criminal. He is already, in the eyes of the Korean system, a convicted criminal, even if he pleads not guilty to 4, 5, and 6. So number 1 is up to 5 years. Number 4 is up to 5 years. So there we have 10. And remember, in the Korean system, they lump it all together. They take all the totals and they lump it all together. So we got 5, 10, and then these 5 and 6 are up to 10.5 years each. So that's 21 years for those two. So you have 21 plus 10, 5 and 5 equals 31 maximum. Now, we're not sure exactly how they're going to charge these last two. They could be charged under a kind of lesser degree, which would be up to only 7 years. But even then, let's say it was 7. That's 7 and 7, 14 plus 10, 24. That's significant time in jail. And the funny thing about 5 and 6, the deepfakes, is that they carry mandatory prison time. That means there is no fine option. They can't just give him a fine. They have to give him jail time.
Legal Mindset would also note that the judge does have discretion to suspend any of these potential sentences and basically let Johnny Somali walk away. But given this set of circumstances and the number of charges he's facing and his overall behavior, that is a virtual impossibility. There's almost no way that would ever happen, especially given some outside forces too, the amount of media coverage on this. There's no way that's going to happen. People want some justice here, and I think that's what they're going to get, because this whole thing is really blowing up in Johnny Somali's face and serving the prosecution a very good opportunity to make an example out of this nuisance streamer. Things are looking very rough. That is pretty much the update so far, keeping you up to speed on this. Of course, make sure to subscribe to Legal Mindset, who is in the forefront of covering this along Atozi and others. I'll put a link to his YouTube account in the description. Make sure to check him out. But yeah, the next proceeding for this is going to be on the 16th. It's just going to be a simple, do you plead guilty or not? Question for Johnny Somali to deal with these additional charges, and we'll see how that goes. And no matter what, I'm sure a lot of people will be covering this, including myself. So we'll have to wait till then. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.